March, and I am here with Valerie Coleman, and we're so excited to talk about her new work for the Flute New Music Consortium. And so welcome, Valerie.
Thanks. It feels good to be welcome.
Good. Well, we just wanted to talk to you a little bit today to get to know you and kind of what inspires you in your compositions in general, and for us to find out any tidbits that we can about kind of what you're thinking about with the new composition for the Flute New Music Consortium. So could you tell us about yourself, your musical background, and your current activities?
Sure. I'm originally from Louisville, Kentucky, and I always dreamt about being a composer, and playing the flute has been my gateway to exploring different sounds and having that creative link. So I went to Boston University. I found out about Tanglewood Institute, which was the Boston University / Boston Symphony Orchestra summer program. And that was my first time outside of Kentucky. And it was a wonderful experience that led me to Boston University, where I got a double degree in flute performance and music composition. And from there, I went to New York City to study at Mannes College of Music, and I studied with Judy Mendenhall there. All the while, I was writing and things like that, but the writing really didn't take off until I started to think about, oh gosh, here I am in grad school, and I got to pay back my student loans at some point. And the idea of putting together a wind quintet popped into my head. And from there, I asked around, because the New York City has a lot of freelance musicians. And Imani Winds was born from that. And it's interesting because now that I teach chamber music, and I'm working with students and in the hopes that they stay together, especially the graduate groups that have really great chemistry. I think back at how I didn't necessarily have that, the chamber music groups of today didn't necessarily start that way. It was more like an intercollegial thing that happened for Imani Winds. So yeah, I basically started writing for the group. And writing, just like a cook in the kitchen. When somebody's hungry, you cook something. And, it's a great analogy, because the amount of love that goes into cooking food for people you care about is the same with the creative process. And so, yeah, that's what happened. I should fully disclose that I have retired from Imani Winds as of this year, because I am taking on a new position at the University of Miami. It's a job that was created just for me, and we're working to figure it out right now. My title is Assistant Professor of Performance, Chamber Music, and Entrepreneurship. So basically, the dean in his wisdom decided to create this position that would encapsulate most of all that I do. Mm-hmm. So I just started that about 3 weeks ago.
Wow.
And I'm just getting adjusted to the experience of academia and figuring out how this brand new position that doesn't have precedent fits in to the programs offered there. So the academics that are offered there.
Yeah. Well, on behalf of the FNMC, I want to congratulate you. That is huge. And we're all sending you a virtual handshake, high five, hug. So congratulations. That's huge. I know we all support you in that. So Can you tell us, you mentioned, you know, you're like a cook in the kitchen when you're composing. Can you tell us about the inspirations behind your composition process in general?
Yeah, the my composition process is really based on intuition and inspiration. And inspiration comes in many different forms. It might be a poem that just resonates, or it might be a painting, or it could be, you know, I don't know, the biography of someone who has done something truly unusual, unique, or great in their lives, and that usually sparks that melody, or the intention of working to create, recreate, put to music that particular scene or um, time in a person's life. So the human experience, I think, is something that is very important to the reason that I write. I also see writing as a means to creating unity, creating love. It sounds cheesy, but um, the creative process is a very positive force within itself. And and I know this from performing with, you know, the likes of people like Wayne Shorter, that when there's love on the stage and it just radiates out, it has the potential to change lives. It has the potential to um, create a sense of well-being in a person. It's almost therapeutic. So I look at my music in that very way. I don't write for myself, never have. Um, it's all about sharing the experience to make people around me better for it. And yeah, of course, there's that side benefit of being in the zone of writing and feeling like you're um, connecting with something that is greater than oneself. You know, you get a taste of that. Of course, you crave that feeling, you know, of touching the divine in a lot of ways. So yeah, that's one of the aspects of why writing is something that I continue to do.
That's really beautiful. Is your composition process for a commission, or in this case, a consortium of commissioners, is it any different, or does that feel any different for you?
It feels different because I know who I'm writing for, and you know, I kind of want to create that yummy dish. That, you know, and some folks I don't know within the consortium, but some I do. And, you know, of course, I want to create some great music for them and everyone.
That's fun. So who's inspired you most as a composer?
Ah, okay. As a composer, let's see. I tell you what, the people who create and people who improvise inspire me a great deal. I mentioned Wayne Shorter. He is definitely someone. Langston Hughes. Um, there's a flute and clarinet piece that I wrote a few years back called Portraits of Langston. And just reading through his memoirs and his poems, just, oh. and you know, I'm not a Francophile, but I do love Paris and the history behind expatriates, African American expatriates, is utterly fascinating to me. And therefore, one of his contemporaries, Josephine Baker, also comes to mind as somebody who is inspirational. I'm trying to think of someone else. Henri Matisse, you know, I've been looking at a lot of his paintings and cutouts and different things like that. It's all a journey, and you get inspired by different things at different points in your life, and that's the beauty of it. And that's what I love about being a composer, because you can really dig in to the history of people and what made them go beyond themselves. I'm always fascinated with that.
That makes sense. That's neat. So you already told us about your journey with Monty Winds and how you began composing. So
Yes.
that one. So what do you like and what do you find challenging about writing for flute?
Oh, that's a good question. Oh my goodness, I have to think about that. What do I find challenging? Well, I think it's equal, what I like and what I find challenging, because the challenge is finding those melodies, finding those rhythms, finding those elements that lead into the rest of the work itself, that are seeds that are going to grow, and deciphering which ones you're going to use in that moment, or which ones are going to be used in the piece. For example, the commission that I just had for the NFA for the high school competition, a lot of motifs came to the fore, but I couldn't really commit to any of them. It's really a decision-making process. And current events happened, and something inflammatory happened in the news that allowed me to get mad enough, and then to choose the melody. And from there, that anger turned into love. Once the melody started to manifest itself and grow and become this building block for other thematic material to happen. So all the material that came before that was chucked out the window. And that was a hard pill to take, when you've worked so, weeks upon material that's just not going to happen. But then as I was writing that piece, another piece came into my mind from that discarded material. Mm-hmm. So within the span of several months, 2 pieces came out. So, you never know what's going to happen. I think that's the challenge of it. And it takes a lot of faith to know that a work will find itself, a work will develop itself. And it doesn't necessarily develop in the time frame that you want it to. One wants it to. It just has its own, it's like a child, really. You cannot, if a child is not ready to learn their ABCs as quick as, Susie or Billy over there, they learn it in their own time. And there's nothing you can do about that to force it. It just happens that way. And I've always maintained that music pieces are their own living entities. They don't breathe, they don't eat, but yet the impact that they make on others it makes them beings unto themselves. Mm-hmm. So yeah, so that's the challenge. And the joy is discovering, how pieces unfold, compositions unfold themselves. And they unfold themselves just like children, with personalities and things that you didn't think that would actually, you could not have predicted.
Mm-hmm. Neat. So can you tell us a little bit about the other pieces you've written for flute? Because I'm sure that when people start playing this new piece, they're going to want to play everything you've ever written for flute.
Oh, so, no pressure.
Can you tell us a little bit about the pieces you've written for flute, or maybe some of your favorites? Because as a flutist, I know you've written a lot. So, yeah.
Yeah, so I just started writing recently for flute, and the pieces that have come about because I wasn't thinking about writing for myself. Mm-hmm. For example, the Wish Sonatine came as a commission from Betsy Crone, and there was one more piece before that, but I think that process was an eye-opener. Knowing that I was writing for another flutist, and she already had the subject material in mind. There was a professor at Virginia Tech, there is a professor there that is a poet, and he wrote about the Middle Passage. And when she came to me about that, I was utterly fascinated. And, of course, there was a little bit hesitance because being an African-American composer, there is the stigma that that African American composers only write about their experience, their culture, their heritage. And I was really working through that particular concept, you know, because surely, of course, there's much more to all of us as creators than that. But at the same time, it really made me take a hard look at what my responsibility is as a composer, to not only record the times, but to present history in a way that can be received with openness. Music heals, it informs, and it bridges gaps between differences of opinion. So, you know, I took it on, and that allowed me to really dive into that history of the Middle Passage. And there was so much I didn't know, so much. And I'm so grateful for Betsy introducing me to that piece. So I think by far that's my favorite flute composition that I've written to date. The other two are not bad. I love them. I love all my children.
Right.
I love all my babies.
For those of our audience who don't know, the titles of those are?
Oh, okay. Danza de la Mariposa. And also Wish, well, the Wish Sonatine I just mentioned. And the new one is called Famille Iman, which is Haitian Creole. And I know I'm not pronouncing it correctly, but it's Haitian Creole for human family, which is the title of Maya Angelou's poem, Human Family. What do I want to say about that? That is quickly becoming my favorite, starting to become one of my favorite pieces out of my works list because of how it makes people feel. Yeah.
Well, that's beautiful. I think that summarizes so greatly why you were chosen as kind of the composer for this project. I think people feel that your main wish is to connect, and we're very excited about what you're going to do, and we're excited to connect with you more in the future and just kind of spread this network of lovers of your music and players of your music, and yeah, we're really looking forward to it.
Well, I will say this. People need to join the Flute and Music Consortium. It is an innovative idea. It is a community unto itself. I'm just really thrilled about it, and it's growing at a rapid pace, and I just want you guys to long live this organization. It's just really fabulous, and I hope to join under this commission.
We will welcome you. Thank you so much, Valerie Coleman, for taking time to connect with us today.
Thank you.